Let him join. There we go, Alan. We're up. We're up and running. We're up and
Here
running.
we are in the Metal Voice, in the big Metal Voice studio here. Thousands and thousands of dollars worth of renovations to put in the big sound system, the sound.
Look at those props. Look at those props.
There you go. It's all here. 2 Canadian bands today. I just noticed Anvil, the mighty Anvil, the ever touring Rush.
Yeah. So,
and who do we got today? A special guest live on the Metal Voice.
Here we are. Yes.
Yes. Who's that?
Yes.
Okay, we got 1 in 5 chance of guessing the right person. 1 in 5.
Right,
that's 20% chance of guessing the right person.
Voila.
There you go.
Voila.
What's the title of that one, Jim?
That's
the
just
title?
That's a Queensryche.
It's just Queensryche. It's just Queensryche. They're not since the EP did they just release something that was called Queensryche. The Lady Wore Black.
Todd's going to join us very soon, by the way.
Todd.
For those of you,
but for those of you who were guessing, 1 in 5 chance. You said they were going to have somebody from Queensryche. Today is Todd La Torre. Is that correct? Oh, you got the other one. Yeah.
This is,
and maybe they're working on a new studio album. We don't know. We'll find out. Keep tuned here on the Metal Voice.
We like to start a little bit early.
Where we
because I was a little bit late.
I'm on time as always. I'm neither late. A wizard arrives when he's supposed to arrive. Remember that? Lord of the Rings. I'm neither early nor late. 1
This
p.m.
is what?
This is 1 p.m.
And just as we wait for Todd, this is what we saw the other day. Not the movie. We went to see Anvil.
Anvil. We'll get into that in an upcoming show because you guys
are missing. Lots of props.
You're missing something if you're not going to go check them out on their recent tour. You're really missing something. Get out there and support Anvil. Ralbo and Lips and Chris, the new bass player. Quite impressive, I must say.
So we're waiting here for Todd, just so everybody knows.
What do we got going on? What else?
So I'll tell you what's going on. So Todd had a gig in Florida yesterday.
There you go.
So I think he'll tell us what happened. Something happened on the way back from the gig, and I'll save it for him.
Okay, well, yeah, it would be good.
Suspense. So people stay tuned. Stay tuned there, Adam. We're getting comfortable.
1 p.m. Eastern time.
Here. All right.
He's on the same, if he's in Florida, he's got the same time as us. Give us a chance to sleep in.
Yeah.
There we go.
If you have, there he is.
There he is.
There's the man. There he is.
A man, not the man. A man. What's going on?
Todd has now joined us here on the Metal Voice.
Todd La Torre.
La Torre.
La Torre. La Torre?
La Torre.
Wait, you right first time.
La Torre. La Torre. La Torre. So, Todd, tell us about. Let's just start right off. I mean, you just right before this live stream, you told me that there was an incident on the way home.
Incident.
Yeah. So we played this show in Leesburg, Florida, which is like pretty much in the center of the state, and so Eddie flew in early and stayed at my place. To do some songwriting and stuff like that and recording, and all the guys flew into Seattle, so he was riding with me back home, and my buddy Craig was driving. So I think we were just about home. It was about 2:30 in the morning, and then we heard this, you know.
That wasn't like a song that you were playing.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God, we have a flat. So it was like an instant flat, and we just idled up into my driveway and couldn't figure out what it was. So then I ended up, because at first I was like, okay, I'll probably get home around 2:33. I have to take Eddie to the airport at 6:45. We had to leave in the morning, so I wasn't getting any sleep. And so that delayed things. So I drove my friend all the way home and drove back, and I set my alarm for like 2.5 hours to wake up to take Eddie to the airport. So then I took him to the airport, and then he texted me and said, my flight's delayed 90 minutes. And he had a connecting flight, so I hope that he made the connection flight. So then I came home, and yeah, so I haven't had any sleep. So I'm sorry if I look like crap, and I just took a quick shower. My hair's still wet.
So it was a flat tire.
It was a flat tire, and so my buddy is having it. There was a guy knocking on my door at 9 o'clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to get a couple hours sleep before this interview. And it was a flatbed. And so my friend texted me and said he has this, roadside assistance. They would be there like around 9:20. So I texted him. I called him and said, they're already here. He's like, oh God. So I guess my friend came to the house. I was asleep, and the car's gone. So I don't know.
There you go. So Todd, let's start from the beginning. All right. And for those the beginning of his stardom, we'll call it stardom in Queensryche. And a lot of people know the story, and a lot of people don't know the story in detail. So I just thought we just touch upon it. So you were singing for Crimson Glory, or at least for a few years, and then how did you get the gig for Queensryche? That's pretty much it.
Okay, so I'll try to condense it. A good friend of mine named Tom McDine played in John Oliva's Pain, and I think it was my second year to NAMM. Anyway, he's endorsed by Seymour Duncan, and so he had a dinner party for Seymour Duncan. So he had a +1. He asked if I wanted to go. I said sure. So I went to this Seymour Duncan dinner party, and it was a very small group of people. But it was really cool, it's like there's Yngwie sitting down eating, it's a small room. There's Warren DeMartini next to me putting food on his plate. And, there's Duff McKagan. And I thought it was really cool, I'm not a starstruck kind of guy, but I didn't really have any notoriety much in the US, especially. Crimson Glory was a much more coveted band, I think, throughout Europe. But nevertheless, so I was putting food on my plate, and there's Michael Wilton, and it was just a quick glance. It was a super quick glance, and I looked at and I said, "A great show last night," and I'm putting food on my plate, and he kind of looks at me and he's like, "What?" So I'm still putting food on my plate at the buffet, and he's like, so I hear this kind of like giggling, and so I look over. And he's still kind of like laughing. And I said, what's so funny? And he's like, what do you mean good show last night? I said, yeah. And I just kind of looked over like, great show last night, at the Grove. And I had seen Testament because I'm a huge Testament's my favorite. So, Whip's a short guy. I'm a short guy. I'm only 5'6". Michael's around my height. Doesn't look anything like Eric Peterson, but because I just saw Testament and maybe they were fresh on my mind, I thought he was Eric Peterson for a second. So I didn't even acknowledge him as the guitarist of Queensryche. And it was like, and so I realized I had a brain fart. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm really sorry. I said, I know who you are. I'm a huge fan of Queensryche. I know who you are.
Hey, and he really took you sincere at that point.
I said, I'm really sorry. And so we kind of just, as I'm putting food, I'm still kind of deciding what I want to eat. And we're kind of sporadically just chatting. And then I finally had my plate full, and I turned to him and looked, and I'm standing there with a plate full of food, and I'm famished. And he was standing there. We're just kind of talking. And, I said, so, what are you up to? What are you guys up to? He says, well, I got a bunch of stuff I'm doing. I got Ratchet Head. I have a thing called Soul Bender, and we didn't really talk about Queensryche at all. And he said, he was doing some music for like TV stuff. I think he knew the people that were doing music for Sons of Anarchy and, sports real stuff. When you watch I'm not a sports guy, but when you watch the recap of all the games and they show the guy running down the field and you always hear like rock music in the back or whatever. And so, we just kind of quickly talked about, I said, well, I sing in a band, Crimson Glory. In fact, I think Crimson Glory opened for you before on the Mindcrime tour. And, but, I'm a drummer of 30 years. I play a little guitar, I didn't say like, I was just a singer, just a musician, And so I was really hungry and wanted to go sit down. And I just said to him, I said, hey, you know, if you'd like, I'd like to continue the conversation. I have a table over there. See the 6'7" guy with blonde hair down to his waist. I said, it's just me and my friend. Nobody will bother you. If you're interested, look, you know, we can sit down and talk. And so he kind of paused for a moment, and then he's like, okay, you know. And so we went and sat down, and it ended up being about an hour and a half, you know, dinner, whatever. And so we really just talked about doing side stuff. And, you know, at that point, Jeff was promoting his solo record, you know, or getting ready to, or kind of in the midst of that. And so Queensryche only had a handful of shows left and nothing for the rest of the year. They were kind of shelved so that he could do a side project or solo album. Sorry, not a solo project. So anyway, we exchanged information, and he said, yeah, you know, maybe you could do some drumming, or you can, I don't know, whatever. So I went home, and then a couple days later, I had some songs in my inbox, and, you know, it was, well, one of them ended up to be the song Don't Look Back on the 2013 record. And yeah, cool. So I just, you know, he said, wow, you know, you remind me, elements of your voice remind me of, you know, like kind of Bruce Dickinson, you know, the early Jeff Tate stuff, like that style, you know. And I said, well, that's what I love, you know. I mean, your band was, you know, immensely influential in the vocal styling that I favor. So I just went ahead and wrote and recorded in, like, I don't know, 2 days, Don't Look Back, and recorded it and sent it back, and just said, because I had said to him, hey, you know, I don't know if you're granting me creative freedom on some of this stuff, but, and he didn't reply. So I said, well, I'm just going to do it. So I did it and sent it back, and he was like, wow, this is really good. I think he had researched some of the Crimson Glory stuff I did. So there was something online to look at. I didn't have an extensive, any kind of body of work for him to really reference, but live stuff as a vocalist. So he was just like, you know, Queensryche's pretty much being shelved. What if, you know, he had the idea, well, you know, what if we put together something on the side, and it would be all of us? Well, Jeff's doing his solo thing, and, you know, maybe we can do some of the deeper cuts on Queensryche and throw in a couple covers or whatever, you know. And I was like totally geeked out, you know, like, wow. So I just said, look, even if it doesn't come to fruition, you know, thank you for even extending me this much, you know. It's really, really nice. And I really didn't think it would turn into anything, because that's you know, that's a super rare kind of a circumstance to happen. And so so I remember I got an email from Scott, and I was like, holy shit, this is like one of my all-time favorite drummers, you know. Like, as a drummer first, you know, I still consider myself a drummer first that likes to sing, you know. And so, you know, I got an email from Scott, and here's my phone number, and we should talk, you know. And then Eddie, and so it was this slow, it took a little while, but it was this slow introduction. And then I think finally, after things got weird with Queensryche, you know, it was like, okay, time to make this public that we're going to do this side thing called Rising West. And so we did. So we sold 2 shows out at the Hard Rock in Seattle before I even practiced one note with the band. That was all on Michael to, you know, man, I better pull through for this guy, because he just put it all out there for me and him and, you know, those guys. So so we did those shows, and then I don't remember the time span really at this moment, but I remember that, you know, the Brazil thing happened or whatever. And, you know, the next thing I know, it was like, you're the new singer of Queensryche. Like, I guess they just couldn't take anymore. And with the things that ensued that are public, you know, that's in the past. I don't want to get into all that,
Todd,
but
can I ask you something here, Todd? Do you think that attributed to, like, you know, Jeff sort of like freaking out on stage? I mean, like in some level or another?
Did they knew Todd was in the background?
That Todd was sort of like the backup goalie, you know, getting ready to sort of, I don't know.
I mean, personally, no, because there were other things that happened prior that, you know, I need to be careful on what I say, but there were other.
So we'll just summarize.
We'll summarize.
Here you are.
Yeah.
Michael calls up Eddie and Scott and says, "Look, we got this guy, Todd. He's got poor eyesight, but he's got a very healthy appetite. We take him on a tour. He might eat all our marketing, our food budget might go, but I'm willing to give this guy a chance."
Yeah, you know, I mean, the Rising West thing was fun, and it was like they were like, "What do you want to play?" I'm like, you know, The Warning's my favorite record. I'm like, let's do like The Warning, and let's do Child of Fire, and let's do Queen of the Reich, and let's do, you know, like all the metal, the more metal stuff. You know, that's where my heart lives. You know, and so they were like super jazzed about playing like all this old stuff, like Child of Fire. They haven't played that. I don't even know how long.
Yeah.
So it was just fun, you know, and I think it was just as stressful as it was. There was also like not stress. It's kind of on both ends. They were just having fun again, and so that was so successful that, you know, when everything just went south with those guys, you know, it was just kind of a lateral thing, like, you know, because when we talked about it, it was, look, we'll do the side thing, but it was very clear to me, look, when that solo thing is done and Queensryche is going to go back out, and then we may not be able to do the Rising West thing anymore, or a show. We'll see. But for now, we'll just do these 2 shows and see what even comes of it. Okay, great. That was really, it was made very clear to me that this was not Queensryche. This was something else with members of Queensryche, and that Queensryche with Jeff would be continuing. And then it was the whole Rocklahoma, you know, comment and those kinds of things that had ensued much later than this, you know, the inception of the Rising West thing and talking about it. And these discussions went over a period of time, you know, and so, but yeah, the recap was I met Michael at a dinner party at NAMM, and I had recorded some, you know, some of the older stuff and sent it to them, and they were like, wow, you know, this is, I said, you know, I'll record some of the old stuff so you can hear what I sound like on it. And I didn't spend an eternity on it. I'm like, it's, you know, I'm flat here. It's not perfect, you know, but it gives you the representation of the tonal qualities that I have. The lower, you and I, Jimmy, talked about, you know, I'm a baritone, you know, and so some of those songs are, oh, you know, they're very deep and bassy and warm. And yeah, people like to hear the super high stuff, but, you know, there's a fullness in my voice that I wanted to show them, other than just like a thin voice that just cares about the high stuff, because that was synonymous with that vocal of the band, but that was only one aspect of it.
Todd, we're going to throw in some questions, and you can answer them really quickly, okay? Because I know people are asking questions.
Sure, yeah.
So just so everybody gets a chance to get their question answered, okay. We'll try to keep it as you know, quick as possible. Hardest Queensryche song to sing from Kubaki Kid.
The hardest one to sing. For a long time, it was like I Don't Believe in Love, which is weird. Like I could sing The Whisper easier than I Don't Believe in Love. That one was always kind of tricky. When I first got in the band, Noye Regal was very hard. I just hadn't developed certain parts of my voice that I know needed improving. I probably still do. I'm always trying to find ways to do things better. So I would say that that's one of them. The Empire stuff is harder to sing than the Rage stuff or the EP stuff, or, you know, I think that that's a lot of stuff off of Empire is, you know, Jeff had such amazing control, and you know, it was just perfect that, you know, and he still sings that Empire stuff so well. You know, but maybe because I was more of a metal guy, that I was conditioned and geared more towards the earlier works.
Warning, warning, warning.
Posed a new challenge for aspects of my voice, because there's a lot of open vocal, like vocally, there's a lot of areas where it's just the voice on that record. And so, you know, I would say that the Empire stuff is more difficult for me. But as we add a song or whatever, like Best I Can was, I never thought I could ever sing Best I Can, because it's just not, I would never write a song like that. I would never write a song like that. And I would never phrase a song like that. I would never sing like that. So trying to learn how to feel comfortable and sing the notes, sometimes I do it really, really well. And there's other times where I go, oh God, I could have done that better, you know, but that's, I don't know. It's kind of hard to pinpoint just one.
Well, here's the next question, which is very similar to this question. It's, and this is Mr. Mega Fred Zeppelin. What is your favorite Queensryche tune to sing? So before it was,
what's the most
challenging one? This would be, what was your
favorite? Oh gosh, I have a few. NM156 was one of my favorites to do.
Cool.
The Roads to Madness, Screaming in Digital, Lady Wore Black. Those are like kind of my, I can't just pick one. There's too many good ones.
Is Rage for Order one of your favorite albums? It is for me. I don't know, not for Alan, but for me it is. I know Mike grabs for Alan.
Yeah, I think The Warning for me is my favorite, but Rage is amazing. I've probably The Warning I like more, because that was, I mean, I had Mindcrime first and then went back. And then when I got The Warning, it never left my car for at least a year. And so I think because of growing up and the connection of that time in my life, I probably favor that. But there's a certain freedom in that record that I really like. I think that the band overall, and I've heard interviews, and the guys in the band tell me, when do they think they really kind of started to have their sound? And a lot of them will cite Rage for Order as that record, but I don't know.
I'd agree with that too.
For me, it's always been Rage for Order. I mean, I started liking them from the EP, right? That's when I started liking the band. And Warning was a great album, but man, Rage for Order just took it to another level. And I told you about this, Todd. I saw them in concert on Rage for Order. They were opening up for Ozzy.
Yeah,
and keep in mind, everyone, there was no computers back then, there was computers, but it was very limited in what they could do. So they had like tape machines running, you know, for all the soundscape stuff, and it was a mess. It was a very messy on stage, because it was just, you couldn't do what you do today on stage in regards to those soundscapes and those little, you know, those little parts in between the songs.
I have a question. Have you had a chance to, since you're a drummer, have a chance to really jam it out with Scott, one of your heroes?
You know, jam it out.
Well, just, you know, get down and say, let's go, let's go.
I mean, there's times where I've sat down on the kit, and because I'm more of a double bass drummer than he is, and so there's things that I'll do on the feet that he doesn't do. But you know, I've shown him things, and then there's times where I'll say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing here? You know, I always wanted to show me what, you know, let's break this down. And then when we try to break it down, he's like, God, I don't know. I've never really tried to break it down. I've just kind of always done it that way. You know, Scott he's not one of those drummers where you're going to hear, you know, that's not his drumming. But a friend of mine, Derek Roddy, who's a drummer, extreme, you know, he's known for like the blast beats and extreme drumming. He had said it best. He said that Scott Rockenfield plays cymbals like drums and drums like cymbals. And he's really right. I mean, there's areas where, okay, here comes the fill, and there's a certain predictability that we all kind of know when a drum fill is going to come. But then Scott will, it's his placement. He'll put something in an unorthodox place, or he'll accent, you know, if you were normally going, you know, he will tweak that somehow, and where you would hit the cymbals or drums, he will hit the cymbals and then hit the floor toms, or so it's his placement that makes learning his material a lot more challenging than you would think. But we've gotten on during sound check, you know, if he's not up there, I get on his drums and then I'll say, okay, guys, let's play something, you know, and so we'll play. And for songwriting purposes, I write a lot of, I play the drums on a lot of the demos, just to help shape songs, you know, because everyone's writing stuff. So if Michael has a song or Eddie has a song, you know, because I'm just, you know, always working on things.
Play guitar.
I play guitar too, yeah. So yeah, even writing, I remember like on Condition Human, the song, there's a little reversal where it goes, you know, it kind of flips. So I remember saying to Michael, hey, let me see your guitar really quick. And we were just playing it kind of. I said, well, let's flip it, you know, to a make the accent in a different place. And so, you know, he's super receptive to melodies that I'll show on guitar or chords. There's a song now that's kind of in the pool of songs for the next record that I wrote. I played all the guitars, I tracked all the drums, I tracked the bass. I did the whole song and said, here guys. Normally I don't do that because sometimes you get married to your ideas and you've put a lot of time and thought, and there's your reasons why things are the way they are. And so when you give it to everybody else and then they change it, you're like, oh, that's not even my song. It's not even it's not even remotely close to what I had or what I wanted. So no, I try to stay away from writing whole songs. I'll just say, here's a killer riff, or, you know, can you build something around that? But in this case, this was something that I had written for my own stuff. And I thought, you know what, let me just throw it to them and see what they think. If they don't like it, no big deal. And so I think it was at like 187 beats per minute. Michael was like, you know, let's bring you into the 2000s. And so we just put it in elastic audio and goosed it up to like 200, and it had a better drive. It was a little draggy the way that I had it, so it needed a little boost in the beats per minute. And then I have a guitar solo in it, and like this whole breakdown thing with these big heavy synth pads. It's kind of Pink Floyd-y in this one section. I thought it felt very like Pink Floyd sound, and he was like, dude, it's great. You know, and I use chords that are, you know, not just regular power chords, but certain chords that sound more in the Queensryche fashion. A lot of chords that Michael Sweet uses, these, you know, that I play with. And so they really liked it, and I sent it to Zeus, our producer, and said, hey, what do you think of this, you know? And he was like, dude, I think it's great, you know. I'm sure we're going to tweak a few things. I said, of course, but the overall body of everything, you know, was 100% me, which felt kind of nice, you know.
Here's another one. Here's another one. I know a lot of people are sending me texts now.
I got time. Don't worry.
All Out War 5001 says, and this is, you know, a touchy one. Do you see a day where you could have a civil conversation with Jeff Tate? And I know that you've met Jeff Tate in the past. So what do you think about something like that?
Does he mean that I would have a civil conversation?
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't, but I mean,
yeah,
that's just the question. Do you see one day you could have a civil conversation with Jeff? I don't think you're hostile anyways against him, so it doesn't really matter. I mean,
no. I mean, if the circumstance ever came up and, you know, and we were together and there was something that we talk, I mean, I would I would, be respectful and civil, and, I mean, that whole beef that went down was nothing to do with me. However, since I've been in the band and, I don't know him personally. So I can't, he's never, again, that wasn't my issue. So yeah, as an artist, I can't say how he is a person, because, but as an artist, I've always had respect for what he did, and particularly on, the first 6 records. Everything after that, and I'm not saying that, that he did all the records beyond that. They were a band. But, if I think of an artist and I think of the favorite bodies of work that someone did, for me, Queensryche was the EP up to Empire. And then later I gave Promised Land a chance. And it's a great record for that. It's a different animal, but it's great. I'm not knocking that at all. But as a person, if I was ever in a situation, I have no problem, if I were to converse with him, but I mean, he doesn't even acknowledge anything I've done or anything who I am. So I don't know that he would be even wanting to do it or care, or I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speculate, but I know that people will say, well, what do you think of this record? And I give my opinion, but I know that when that was reciprocated, there isn't any comment, and maybe that's just the safe road, and that's fine. But if at some point in the future there was ever a circumstance where I, had to talk to him, I would have no problem having a conversation. I'm just doing the best that I can in one of my all-time favorite bands, and but things move on, and I'm in a good place with the guys, and there's really no ill will in the band. It's not something we really discuss. So
Transmission.
Oh, geez.
It's back. Sorry.
We're back.
There's a blip.
I'm not sure what it wasn't me. I don't know what the last thing was that you heard, but in short, if I were confronted with that situation, I would be respectful. And, I was saying, I don't know if you heard it, but, there's times when I've been asked about a particular record and I give my opinion, but then that's the reciprocal of that has been brought forth, and there's no comment, so I don't know that's a mutual feeling, but I mean, it doesn't really matter to me either way. But if that situation happened, of course I would be respectful.
I mean, from our end, there's no topic on our shows that has generated so much discussion and vitriol as the Jeff Tate and Queensryche debate, right, Jim? I mean, so going back, like we know when Sammy took over from Dave, there's all these signs on their first 5150 tour, bring back Dave or anything. Did you see any of that when you joined the band? Or was any signs or say we need Jeff, or
the transition? What was the transition like?
Oh, I mean, you're always going to hear that. I mean, that's just par for the course. People are going to say, it's not Queensryche without DeGarmo. It's like the guy left in '97. What are you talking about? And I know Chris DeGarmo, and I've had lunch with him, and I've spent time with him, and he's super cool, and he totally, respects what I'm doing with the band, and he's made that, known to me, and
any chance he'll ever come back?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Well, I'm a big Chris DeGarmo fan.
He left in '97.
I mean,
I watched him back. He's born.
No, I don't see that happening. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Chris, but
yeah, of course.
But he's got his own life and he's doing very well and very happy, and so no, I don't see that. But yeah, I mean, people are going to say that. As far as the transition, Jimmy, that you asked is, I mean, obviously the purists are going to say, F this guy, he sucks, he's a clone, he sounds like a dying cat. I've heard every bad comment that you can imagine. He doesn't have the control. His screams are falsetto, which they're not. But, you know, and then you have the majority of the people that, I'm telling you, they come up, they'll say, you know, they kind of look around, you know, thank you for saving my favorite band. And I just say, I didn't save anything. These guys are free to write whatever they want to write now. There's no, you know, that's too heavy. And you know, you're never going to get that out of me. If anything, they're like, you know, maybe what I'm doing is really heavy, but I have to work within the, I was telling you before, you know, every band has boundaries. They might be this big, but every yard has a fence. It just depends on how big the yard is. I mean, Queensryche has a lot of diversity. You have Della Brown, Silent Lucidity,
Yeah.
and you have Queen of the Reich and Screaming at Digital and all these things. So, but I'm not going to death growl on a Queensryche album. Now live, you know, I'll do some of that just for fun, and it's attitude, and it's, you know, I like it. They don't tell me not to do it, but you know, there's still a sound that needs to be respected and understood within this band, any band. And so I do respect those boundaries, even though they're far and wide. But the transit, you know, so many people say, you know, there was somebody who said before, like, I got in an elevator and the lady said to me, oh, I just saw you, aren't you the singer of Queensryche? And I said, yes. And she goes, I saw you back in 1986 and you sound just like you did then. And I looked at her and you know, I was about to my floor and I just said, well, thank you very much for coming, and it's very kind of you. And I got off the elevator. You know, it's like, no, I was like 12, so that wasn't me. But you know, so there are people that don't know about the lineup change, but they know the sound and they think that I'm that guy from the beginning. And then, you know, you have people that have come up to me and said, you know, I owe you an apology. And I say, why is that? And they say, because I didn't want to like you. And I went in, I actually came to your show to prove to myself that you weren't as good as some of these people are saying that you are. And I was wrong. And I think you sounded excellent. I think you represent the catalog well. I like that you're doing new stuff too. And you're, you know, there is that common thread vocally, but you're also you. And to me, that was the highest compliment, because there's always the guy that's like this and they just, you know, they just don't want to accept it. And I just say, if you can separate yourself from the purist mentality and get past the feelings, but just judge something on its own merit for what it really is, without the bias of favoritism or, oh, when I was, you know, I got laid the first time I heard this song. Like, get rid of the history,
the emotion.
Listen to the songs. If you really think I suck, then okay, that's fine. You know, people like Coke over Pepsi. You're not going to sell everyone everything. And so I get that. And I don't take offense to that, because, you know, we all have our preferences for certain reasons. So I respect if someone truly doesn't care for my voice. However, when I know that something sounds really representative and I'm my worst critic, so nobody's going to judge me in a more true, harsh way than myself. Saying I suck is not fair. I don't suck, but like, ooh, he cracked on that note. Oh, he didn't, you know. Okay, if you want to pick apart things and go there, we could do that. We can do that, and I do it all the time. So nobody's doing anything that I don't already do. On the other hand, you know, let's just step back and look at the performance as a whole and go, do you really need to pick every single little thing and just enjoy the greater body of what we did?
The big picture.
Sometimes people can just be so fixated that it's like, you can't see the forest through the trees. You're so focused on every little detail. If you want absolute perfection, go put the CD in, because, you know, I'm playing, well, when we're touring, every night. You know, we did 21 shows in 23 days in Europe. And I have friends that are peers that are like, dude, I couldn't do what you do. Like, well-known people that, you know, that are like, I honestly couldn't do what you're doing. I don't know how you're doing it. I said, I don't know. And then we just did 24 shows in 30 days with Armored Saint. And, you know, there's times where I sounded like crap. You know, it's like, oh, God. But, you know, you have to try and push through it. And I always give it my best. There's times where I try to pace myself. And then there's other times where I feel great and solid. But, you know, we do 6 days on, 1 day off, 6 days on, 1 day. You know, that's not cool.
I can't even talk for 2 hours straight.
Yeah. And I don't even, you know, I don't think we'll ever do that. And I've expressed that to, you know, our camp, like, hey, listen, if we're going to do 6 shows in a week, can we just do 3 on, 1 off, 3 on? Because, but then again, you're dealing with a million bands touring. And is that venue at that location, because of logistics and where we're going, available that day? And no, that's the only day. And so sometimes it's really hard to, you know, have those days off. But, you know, going back to that purist thing is just the transition. People.
I just want to add to that, Jim, because you and I stated very neutral in what everything that was going on.
Yes.
By the way, I've seen your reviews before we met, but go ahead.
Yeah. So we didn't.
Were they favorable? I don't remember.
No, but we didn't give any. You know, we met Jeff a few times, and but I witnessed Queensryche with Todd when they opened for the Scorpions almost 2 years ago. So here we are. Okay, I'm going to witness this live. I'm going to keep an open mind, just like Todd said. And unbelievable. I understood when you sang Queen of the Reich, it hit home. And the song selection, by the way, was stuff that, like you said, you ever heard them. The last few times we saw Queensryche was always the stuff off of Empire to close the show and a lot of Operation Mindcrime. So the song selection was unbelievable. When you did Queens of the Reich, for me, it said, oh, wow, that's something I haven't heard in like 20 years. That's the way it should be sung.
In the right key. Not in the right key, but in the right tuning.
It was unbelievable.
Thank you.
I had my girlfriend next to me who was not her cup of taste, but at the end of the show, and this might be a very good compliment.
His girlfriend was there for the Scorpions.
Like, yeah, we were there for the Scorpions. I mean, their ever-ending tour. And he's like, man, that guy can sing. The music's not quite my cup of tea, but man, that guy can sing.
That's right.
That's very kind. Yeah. But I mean, and you know, thank you, by the way. When we did the Scorpions tour, you know, it's only like a 45, 50-minute set, whatever it is. And so we're like, okay, we're playing for their fan base. Now we have people that are coming to just see Queensryche, or, you know, maybe want to see Queensryche more, but of course you can't deny the Scorpions. And then you had, but the majority, I would say, was the Scorpions fan base. We were playing to their audience. We were in their house. We were their guests. And so we said, okay, we have a really short set. The casual listener, oh, I remember Jet City Woman. So we had to be like, okay, let's pull a couple deep cuts that are for the hardcore Reich fans. And then we'll play stuff that people might remember that was a hit song. So it's like, how can we try to get the biggest bang for the buck for the short set that we had? But that was a super fun tour. You know, they're really good guys, and I'm glad to become friends with them. And
yeah, I'm glad they stopped touring.
But I mean, this is a great segue into another question here. It's from Michael. What's up with the new album? So I guess I would expand on that. I go,
okay, let's do it.
Yeah. So I mean, what's the timeline look like? What's the direction going to be, and what stage are you at?
Okay, so right now, I think the last playlist that I opened had around 15 songs. Not all of them are completed. There are many that are. There are many that have all the arrangements. Because I went to Seattle and stayed there for a week to 10 days, and we just worked on arrangements. Like, okay, here's a good intro, here's a verse, here's a bridge, here's a chorus. because once you have that established, like there's pretty much your song. You have a verse and a chorus. You're going to do another verse. It's going to be the same. You're going to do the chorus. It's going to be the same. And then like some segues or some middle eights or some, so right now we're in the tentative recording timeline is to get into the studio September. It was supposed to be March, but we did 100 shows last year. And when you only have 4 days off at home, like you're not locking yourself in your studio to work. Like I'm cutting grass, and I'm spending time with my wife, and I'm seeing my mother, and I'm doing normal things that, the last thing I want to do is music when I come home. So, and you can't force creativity, like good stuff, So there's times that I've gone in there and just looked at the screen and heard songs and be like, I got nothing. And for an hour, and I just be like, for whatever reason, I'm just not inspired right now. I'm tired, and I'm going to go wash my car. And so I just close Pro Tools down and I go do other stuff. And then, okay, I got a good idea. And then I go back in and then I'll record an idea. And, so that's kind of how it's been. But, we're hoping to get in there and start recording September. We've got a handful of songs. As far as direction goes, it's still premature, to answer that. There's like Condition Human had like Just Us, it was this totally different kind of a thing. And, we have a song that Eddie wrote, and when he was here, I just wrote all the orchestration. Wrote all the orchestrations for it and some ideas, and it's a total, it's kind of Beatles-ish, and it's a really cool song. It's not a heavy song. It's more.
Will the sound be heavier than the last one? Like in terms of, is it more brutal? Will it be more epic? Maybe a 20-minute song? I mean, what kind of ideas are floating around?
I would say that the stuff that's on there, the stuff so far, I think has more upbeat, driving, like faster tempo songs. I think Condition Human, in hindsight, probably lacks a couple. It could have used a couple more faster songs, which we kind of knew that once all the song, because when you're writing a song, you're just like writing what you feel. Like if you have if I start with a drum beat, usually if I'm feeling a certain groove, I'll lay a drum track down, and okay, and that's kind of like what I'm feeling rhythmically. But out of all of the ideas, there's stuff that's more. I think that there's more odd time so far. There seems to be more odd time stuff, a little more progressive. Queensryche always has these weird little pushes, where there's like, it's not always like this, but there's a little push there. And so I have another a really proggy piece that's really cool, that I need to finish recording the guitars in the next couple days for it to show Michael and Parker. But it's a proggy thing. In some aspects, there's definitely some Rage, reminiscent of Rage for Order kind of era sounding songs, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to kind of I can't lump it in right now because by the time Zeus gets a hold of it, he's gonna be like, okay, that sucks. Like, get rid of it. Let's change this, or this is too happy and major. Let's find something that's darker. And okay, we're gonna add some keys here, and it'll totally shift. Sometimes I listen to songs now in the demo form to what made it on the record, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember when it went like that. Wow, it doesn't even go like that now, but it was better. So probably once we get into full pre-production with Chris Harris, then I'll have a better answer for you as far as
Is Century Media asking you guys, listen, in the next year you need an album? I mean, is there pressure from the record label?
No, you're Queensryche, and we're gonna let you do it when you want to do it and how you want to do it. They don't listen to the songs and tell us that's no good, that's good. They don't, we do what we want to do, and they've been very great with just letting us be the writers and not trying to like force a direction. I think that's an old way of thinking. If a label were to do that, because you're not molding and shaping bands like the great 80s, you know, where we're developing an artist. I don't see artist development anymore. I see put a record out, stick these, you know, hungry guys in a van and go just play until they can't play anymore. And so for me, I'm not really seeing quite the artist development and really seeing a band at its inception or very formative stages, and then developing with this vision of superstardom as a rock band, because those days don't exist anymore. You've got every band that I love was selling arenas on their own. Now you put 5 of them together, they play a civic center and it's half curtained off. So it's just the way that it is today. So I don't think that they're getting, I don't know, because I'm not in that side of the business, but I don't think that there's the return on that investment. Just like videos, you cut a video for a few grand now. Back in the day, they were $250,000 and higher. You know, nobody would ever do that in their right mind now, and rightfully so. It's your CD is a business card and nothing else. Your CD is a business card to get people to want to come to your concert, to spend money on the ticket and buy a t-shirt, and that's it. And if you expect more, I think that it's a gross misunderstanding of the way the business is today. If you know, now there are still some bands that are selling hundreds of thousands of copies. We don't do that. Most of the bands that we've played with, that even I respect and admire, that are larger, are still not selling a 500,000 and higher. You've got a very tiny handful that are doing that, and hats off to them. But just because of the nature of, we're a very disposable society, and we are so quick. I mean, especially on YouTube, you're playing something and you're kind of scanning the stuff on the side. You're like, oh, and you won't even finish what you're playing. I do it all the time, and it's just, I don't know. So we're not really. I mean, you guys, me, those generations cared about the experience of opening vinyl or a CD and seeing who's in the liner notes and what kind of gear did they use and who produced it. And, you know, we care about that stuff and the artwork that goes with the theme of the concept of the vibe of the record. And now the kids, they just buy a single and they don't even care, you know.
We'd be sitting there staring at the album cover for the whole length of the album, flipping it from side to side. So,
and even artists are more, you know, they're easier to get in touch with today than they were back in the day. Like, you would never, you know, unless you were some sort of major print, you know, be able to talk to anyone. So,
but just to go back to what you were saying earlier, Todd, you know, now you're 2 albums in. Luckily, Queensryche has a wider parameter than most bands, but there's nothing really holding you back, I would say, to really play anything you want, to do any style of music at this point.
I would agree. I mean, we're just, when we write a song, we're not writing like, you know, and this, I don't want this to come off wrong. Like, you know, we're not writing initially for, well, what does everybody else want? We're writing what we feel and feels inspiring to us. And, you know, you're always hopeful that the listeners will, you know, receive it in the way that you're giving it, that you want it to be taken. I mean, that's the hope for any artist. If you're a painter or a sculptor or a house builder and you have a new floor plan and a design, and you're hoping that people, you know, feel that they see your vision in the way that you see it. So, you know, we're just writing what we want to write. And then when we have everything together, and then we'll say, okay, you know, this, I mean, we're not afraid to throw a curveball or, you know, something like, I think Just Us was a definite curveball. You know, I remember when I first sang the first lines of that, I was singing it more in a full voice. And I said, well, what if I sang that in falsetto. That was in a falsetto voice, the very intro, and I didn't like it. I was like, you know, what would I say to you? I was like, what? No, this should not. No, I didn't like it at all. And Zeus was like, dude, I like it. I think it suits what we're doing in the beginning. Then you open up right before the band kicks in, and I said, well, you know, I don't think I've ever heard falsetto like that. And everybody liked it, and we thought at the end of the day, like, okay, it does kind of set this, you know, it fits with the beginning of the song. So that it was a little unorthodox, I think, but it worked, and some people really love that song, and some people could care less about it. But, you know, on that record, that was definitely like kind of not expected, but it was just another cool song that we thought it was cool. And it had a very, I'm a big fan of the 70s singer-songwriter era. You know, Jim Croce, and you know, but I love, you know, Hart and Steely Dan and Fleetwood Mac's one of my all-time favorites, Fleetwood Mac, and you know, America, and I love Ambrosia and Jerry Rafferty, you know, all these things. So I thought, you know, it's got this kind of nostalgic chorus. It reminded me of like what did we say, like Crosby, Stills and Nash or something. I don't know, it was just something different. So we just, you know, it ended up going on the record. And so I guess that's kind of a risk that you take instead of everything being the same.
I gotta tell you, on Condition Human, and here's the album right here again.
Yeah.
Pick it up, you could still pick it up. The best song, and I think the best song that probably represents you sort of sounding like Queensryche but being yourself at the same time, would probably be Bulletproof. That song is probably, in my opinion, it's probably the best song. Again, it captures the essence of who you are, as well as captures the essence of, you know, the band itself, right? I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I think Condition Human does, but Bulletproof is a good, you know, I remember when Parker, because Scott and Parker wrote that first, and it was Scott's song first, and then Parker put guitar to it and then wrote lyrics and melodies to it. And then, but it was a super pop arrangement in a way that I would never phrase it that way. And so I ended up rewriting, the chorus was all Parker. So the chorus was on the vote, that was all Parker. The verses, you know, the how many times must we try, that was on a song that I had, that it was an idea, and that whole verse I lifted from my own thing that nobody ever heard, and I went, you know, I have this thing that I think will fit perfect. And so I pretty much took some other stuff that I had and worked it into Bulletproof. But I know what you're talking, like I think Open Road on the 2013 record, to me, was probably one of my favorite. Like, it sounds really like Queensryche, you know, especially the vocal styling and the chorus. And I don't know, that was one that I felt, you know, but Condition Human allowed me to do, you know, some of those more dark, quirky, you know, all those inflections vocally. There's a song on Condition Human called All There Was. Is it All There Was? Yeah, All There Was. And then after that, there's a segue called The Aftermath. But the Aftermath was in the middle of All There Was. And then we took it and put it at the end. And then that was one song. And then we thought, it's kind of a segue thing, just like Empty Room into Eyes of a Stranger. Like, if you just called Eyes of a Stranger, an Empty Room was the beginning of Eyes of a Stranger, but they indexed it and called it its own little piece.
Right.
So that's what we did with The Aftermath. We just indexed it as its own piece, but it was all part of that song. But that whole, the clock on the wall, that whole thing, you know, to me, that was like, that's the stuff that I really like to do, is those vocal things, like, you know, and that was, you know, vocally, that's what made Queensryche stand out to me, was you know, all those things, those little barks and those crying things, and it's just you know, you sound kind of insane at times, you know.
And just to go back to what you were saying earlier, I also was Queensryche up until Empire, and then got into Promised Land. I did buy American Soldier and a lot of the earlier, later stuff. But when everything was going down a couple of years ago, or how long ago it was, I mean, it just seems to me like, okay, let's stop exploring. And the core of the group, which you're with now, is that let's get back and like you said, into those deeper cuts. Let's get back to that more of the traditional Queensryche sound. And
Yeah.
Jeff it seems like he always wanted to explore and do his thing, which we respect both. But that's from an outsider point of view. That's how we saw it at that time.
Yeah, I was very upset about that Dedicated to Chaos at the time, if you remember.
Yeah,
I was very upset at the time.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
look, yeah, I mean, when you have a lot of outside writers coming in, and you know, you got to just let the guys do what they do, and you know, not everything's going to stick to the wall. You throw stuff at the wall and you see what works and you see what doesn't. But you know, I'm not saying there aren't moments on those other records, but overall, they'll tell you that, you know, they'll tell you that. But now, you know, the stuff that they you know, I remember, you know, the song Selfish Lives. It's a killer groove, you know, you know, and I remember when Michael first showed that to me, you know, I was like, wow, that's got a cool groove. I like that groove, you know. It's and he was like, yeah. I go, is that, because I said, dude, go back on your old hard drives and find old ideas that you might have forgot. There could be a nugget in there. There could be a little gem in there that we could write a whole song around. And he had that piece, and I said, has anyone ever heard this? And he was like, hold on, who is knocking at my door? I'm so sorry.
It's the flatbed truck's back. He wants to get paid.
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, it's okay.
I can't talk. I'm in a meeting. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
It could be.
Bad move for Jehovah's Witnesses to knock on my atheist door.
You should have let him on.
I didn't want to say anything, but on a Sunday at this time, I thought there was a good chance.
Dudes, they just, oh my God, I don't knock on your door with science books. Please don't knock on my door. Anyway.
So did anybody hear it before?
I said, has anyone heard this before? He said, yeah. It was too heavy. I said, what? Selfish Lives. Yeah, I was told it was too heavy. I was like, okay, well, it's not. And so let's work on it. And it became a killer song. And so, you know, I'm you know, Michael and Eddie and Parker and Scott, you know, they're all such down to earth people. And they're just, you know, I'll sing a vocal thing. And if they're like, yeah, I don't really like that, I'd be like, really? Wow, I really like, what don't you like about it? You know? And I mean, what are your ideas? If you think you could do something better, tell me, and I'll totally do that. But if there's a guitar thing and I'm like, that's kind of redundant, or I'll be like, what about this? Like, okay. Like Michael is the sweetest guy in the world. I mean, you know, when we were doing the last record, especially, you know, he would be playing something. The guy never stops working. He never stops. I mean, we'll be touring. Where's Michael? He's in the dressing room or in the bus with his laptop open, headphones on, guitar plugged in, and the guy just writes music. And, you know, you're not always going to have, you know, the most amazing stuff, but he comes up with amazing stuff and he never stops. It's like, yeah, you know, this is what I felt today. And he just records, and Eddie has stuff. And so everybody, you know, I think what the best thing I could say about these guys is everyone allows each other to be who they are, to look the way they want to look, to act the way they want to act, to write how they want to write. And we don't say, well, you're the vocalist, you just stick to the singing, or you're just the bass player, Eddie, you just work on bass lines. Eddie writes guitar parts, vocal melodies, drum stuff. We all crisscross each other's instruments to just go, yeah, hey, Parker, I can't play guitar like you, but this is what I'm feeling. And he'll translate what I'm feeling. Or they'll have a vocal thing and give it to me. And what about this note? And I'm like, okay, let's try it. So we all really work as a band to just come up with the best stuff. And then when it's there, then we give it to Zeus and go, okay, what do you think? And it'd be like, dude, this is great. Okay, this one, no. This one, great. It needs some work here and there. And so that's what makes it fun with these guys is there's not a leader of the band. It's all of us are equal. And you know, we all have different listening tastes. I'm a hardcore metal guy, you know, more in that, you know, the Iron Maiden, the power metal prog stuff. Parker is a punk rockabilly guy. Eddie is more of a pop rock guy. Michael is, you know, a lot of those things too, but we all have our own things. Not like all of us just like that. And so I think that's where you get some unique, you know, I lean on Eddie for vocal melody sometimes, like, dude, I'm stuck. I got nothing. Can you help me out here? I'm just not feeling, I'm having a hard time feeling something on this. And he'll be like, what about this? And it'll be pop. But if you listen to like some of the Iron Maiden stuff and you put it in a pop context, you're like, that works. A good melody is a good melody. Doesn't matter.
I believe that. I believe any song you could play to an acoustic guitar really slow.
Yeah.
If it works, then you got a great melody. You can make it a metal song, a speed metal song, whatever.
I agree.
But I mean, let's just switch gears a little bit. I know you told me this prior that you're working on a solo album. I mean, so what's that going to sound like? I mean, where are you at with that?
That is okay. So I have a friend named Craig Blackwell, and he is a lifelong friend. The first band I ever joined as a drummer, I think I was 14 maybe, as a drummer. And to this day, we continue to, we played in bands together our whole lives. That is more thrash. I would say it's like musically, it's probably like Fight meets Pantera meets Black Label. So it's definitely got that kind of southern, you know, Pantera had that certain power groove, you know, that kind of a groove, you know, not full-fledged, you know, not a lot of that, but has thrash elements, you know. And then vocally, you know, I'm singing probably a lot more chest voice. And then I've got some brutal guttural vocals on it, you know, that's like you know, yeah, that kind of stuff. So, yeah,
Alan does a good job.
or maybe I'll see if I can find something on my phone. I'll give you like a 2-second snippet.
All right,
live on the preview.
Look at this.
Todd La Torre.
I don't know what I have. I don't know what I have on here, but that's going to come out. That'll be done on Rat Pack Records.
Okay, cool.
And so I've got Craig and I are writing all the music and recording it, and then I'll have a bass player and a drummer that will be doing it with us. I'm not going to mention any names right now, but I know who they are. Here, I'll show you a really rough demo.
All right, here we go.
This actually has my gutturals. All right.
All right, here we go.
Let me see. Can you hear this?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. So that's kind of like, you know,
that was pretty cool. You're gonna get a lot of death metal fans.
Yeah, that's kind of a, you know, of a, you know, that's one. Then that song will open up with more of the really high kind of Halfordy, gritty, you know, metal. You know, it'll be really, it'll be really, you know.
You're looking at a year
really
before it's completed. A year's time before it's completed.
I would like to have every, God, dude, it's just been like put on the back burner because it's like, I'm right, you know, we're doing the new Queensryche album, then I'm on the road all the time, then it's like, when am I going to get to this? So the original plan earlier was to have it put out this year, but if I can get everything, because I don't want to like clash with our release. So even if I have everything recorded, if I can have everything pretty much recorded by the end of the year and ready for, you know, a middle of next year. I mean, if I can get it jammed out before the end of the year, then great. But you know, I just want it to, it'll be my first solo effort. So I really want it to be just right. And look, if it takes another 6 months, who cares? But yeah, that'll be a lot more brutal and more thrash. But the vocals are definitely more of a power metal operatic kind of a thing, very aggressive. And then, you know, you've got, like, I have some backing vocals that are, you know, the guttural vocals. That's just a sliver of super, that's an old premature demo, not even like the final recordings of anything, but just shaping up some ideas. Okay, this is what I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to open up with some other vocals there. But so Craig Blackwell and I are doing it. It'll be on Rat Pack Records. You know, they're super great people there, and I don't know that it's anything I would ever be doing concerts with or whatever. It's really just an outlet for me to just get down these ideas that I've had in my head for a long time, and new ones that come up, and stuff that I know that's not suitable for Queensryche, that it still allows me to, as a musician, to record and just put it out there. Actually, Craig also did the mixing for the Metal Church Fake Healer thing that we did when I did that duet thing.
Yeah,
So
I thought it was great.
He did the engineering on that song for those guys. So yeah, it's going to be fun, and you know.
And also, you know what we forgot to mention, Steve Grimmett. So I know you still haven't done your tracks, but I know we talked about this prior. So Steve Grimmett, Reaper All Stars, you're supposed to guest on the song. I mean, and I want to tell everybody out there, and everybody's been asking me this question. So what's going on? You know, everybody's asking me this. And I tell everybody that there's different touring schedules, and the guys who are working on the song, like Tony Dolan, you know, he's got his own, you know, album he's working on. So it'll be a little bit of time. I mean, it's not going to happen in the next week. It'll be a few months down the line, but eventually, I know that half the singers have done their parts. I know that Glenn also did his part, Glenn Drover, and Todd's anxiously awaiting to do his part.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on Steve Grimmett? How's that?
My thoughts on Steve?
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was like 14 years old, we had this local cable station called V32, and it was like they played all, you know, that was how I got introduced to Testament had a video called Trial by Fire off the New Order record. And I heard that that was when you were hearing, you know, when you hear like and the toms are going, you know, they're synced together. Back then, you didn't really hear a lot of that. Metallica done it, but you didn't really hear. And when I heard Testament, it was like, oh, it was just gave me chills. And that was when I heard Halloween, and that was when I really gravitated from, you know, Dawkins, which was one of my all-time favorites because I was playing guitar at a young age, and so I loved George Lynch's playing, and I just loved all those songs. So Dawkins and Rat were my two, like, those were my bands, Dawkins and Rat, okay? and I loved Tesla because as a drummer, I was learning like mechanical resonance, and so I was big into, you know, Whitesnake and more of rock, not metal. You know, those aren't metal bands.
Blues, hard rock.
Right. But so when I got into Halloween and Testament, in fact, I had heard them before I heard Queensryche. And so that's when I started really, I went out and got the New Order, and now things start going down the metal path. And I really didn't deviate from that until, you know, a decade or more later. And so, and I didn't really deviate. I just broadened my horizons. You know, I didn't have the musical maturity back then to appreciate, you know, David Gilmour. You know, if it wasn't Tony McAlpine or Vinnie Moore or Paul Gilbert or Yngwie, I wasn't about it. If it wasn't just, you know, all of that, I was like, that sucks. I hate it. You know, I only wanted to hear, you know, heavy metal and killer vocals and just ripping solos and all that stuff. Racer X, I always liked Racer X. And so as I became, you know, more mature musically, and I could appreciate and respect space in music, you know, like Yngwie says, well, less isn't more, more is more, which always makes me laugh. But you know, less is more in many senses. I mean, if you're in a room and an air conditioner is running, you don't notice it. But when it stops, you notice that it stopped. So something was taken away, but it had an impact on you, even though something was withdrawn. So in the same way, if you have so much space in music, let it breathe, let it move somewhere. You know, there's a million guys that can shred and play fast, and that's great. And like, respect, okay? I don't deny, you know, the praise that they deserve for their virtuosity. However, that doesn't mean that you're a great songwriter. It doesn't mean that it fits there. And so, you know, back then when I got into Testament and Halloween and those things, that was when I really kind of got into the metal stuff. Then I got Mindcrime on a tape. My sister was dating a guy that was a drummer, and I really admired I kind of looked up to him like an older brother. And that was when I got into that band, into Queensryche, and then of course Iron Maiden and stuff like that. But I don't even remember what huh? Oh, God, Steve Grimmett. That was the whole conversation.
That's the whole question. I go, what you gonna say, Steve Grimmett?
There was a reason why. There was a reason why I got on this. V32, when they were playing these bands, and it was Rock You to Hell.
Yeah.
And it was like, it had that classic, you know, head
rock and roll,
rock and groove. And it was like, and it used to come on all the time, this video. And I could be doing anything. I mean, getting ready for school or whatever I had to do. And I would always find myself stopping and watching the video and listening to the song. And I always loved it. And the guy's voice was just like, wow. And he had this kind of spiky hair.
Really big hair at the time. But
it was super long. And, you know, it was just like head banging. And I just loved it. I loved it. And, you know, you fast forward after all those times, I was 14, 15 years old. And it left an impression on me, you know, a good one. And you fast forward to now, I'm 43, you know, these circumstances come to be, and you go, wow, like, I'm being asked to be part of some, to benefit and help the singer that when I was a 14-year-old kid, I watched him on my TV, and he was, you know, these were the rock stars, the metal, you know, I looked up to these people. And so I, you know, I'm not up on all the news with what's going on with everybody, but I found out he had his leg amputated. I don't know what it was from, but I did watch.
And there was like a sore there. Just to summarize, it was an infection. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, because he was diabetic, you know, it's very difficult to control the infection.
Sure.
And he was on tour, he had pain. Therefore, they just at a level. I mean, the infection was so bad they had to amputate his leg.
I can't even imagine. I you know what he's going through. But I have a best friend of mine who is a paraplegic, and he actually had one of, I mean, the two legs don't work already. To make it worse, he had to have one leg amputated. But even as a paraplegic, he was, you know, telling me all the time about this phantom pain. And
that's what happened to Steve.
So, yeah, so I watched one of your things where he was in the hospital and his wife was there, and then I think I saw another video with him at his home. I think he was in a wheelchair, and he was just kind of explaining. I guess he was in a hospital in Ecuador.
Yeah, and it was really sad because he was stuck in Ecuador by himself. They don't even speak English that well, right? So it's not like he had a common language to conversate with people, right? So he was completely, I wouldn't say abandoned, but he was alone.
He was isolated.
I would imagine, even if you were in the U.S. surrounded by people you know, there you would still feel alone, because you're going through this, and to lose an extremity, like, wow, psychologically, that's got to be just really not easy. And then you compound that with, I'm in a foreign country. I don't know what their, I mean, you don't know what their practices are, or what the certain standards are, or the communication. Like, are you allergic to this? Yes, no. Like, you don't have my medical history, trying to get back to the US with your doctor to get the right information. And so I felt really empathetic for his situation. And so I was very honored to be asked to do anything on it. I don't care if it's singing backing vocals on a chorus. Like, that's fine. It's not about me. It's about, hey, if we can get another person, that can add some weight to the awareness of what's going on, then that's all I could ever.
The kicker was, and just so everybody understands this, the insurance company refused to pay. Hence the reason why, the insurance company, what they paid for insurance. It wasn't like they didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
They found a clause, it was a loophole, and they refused to pay them. So now they're stuck like this. Their only means of income, right, which is touring and selling whatever CDs they can sell, of course, merchandise as well. Their only means of income has been cut off, right? I mean, and I don't want to say it like that, but they've been shut down.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. I mean, they've been shut down, and that's why we've been trying to rally and pledge, and and like you said, get some heavyweights behind the song, and try to raise some funds for I
hope that I hope that they can definitely raise as much as exceed what they would even expect, to help with just living expenses. The guy sure has a mortgage, got to feed himself and his family, and power bill, and it doesn't just stay on. You got bills to pay. Even if the money went partially, like minimum payments for the medical expenses, but then it paid the guy's mortgage, like, great. Like, let's pay the guy's mortgage. Let's pay his water bill and fill his fridge full of groceries. And, like, just, not that he can't feed himself. I'm just saying, like, if this can create an abundance of, extra finances for him, money for him, then, I mean, that's what it's all about. And then, to have a pool of people that can carve out time to do that for him is everyone. I mean, the few people that I know that are a part of it, everyone's, they've all expressed that that's why they're doing it. These are people that they don't need to do anything. They want to help. And so my thoughts, I feel like a total idiot because I went off on, like, Halloween and other things. With the whole conversation was,
Steve, it's okay.
We got it.
The reason why I did that was
that's why we do these chat, because you have a little more time to express yourself, right? It's
this
not,
this TV show was how I learned of the band
Grim Reaper,
and so, yeah, it's to come full circle. You know, I hope that I get to meet him in person one day. I would, with gratitude, shake his hand and thank him for all of the decades of music, and you know, still having that giving me that memory of that time in my life, and still out there doing it. And you know, there's so many people out there that are just what they do. And you know, if it's a club with 50 people or 5,000 people, you know, to be yeah. I saw the documentary. I've met them.
By the way, Lips is on it as well. Lips is on the All-Star song.
Yeah, I met them a couple times.
We met him just 2 days ago.
Yeah, we was at the show 2 days ago.
Yeah, they're the drummer. What's the drummer's name?
Rob Reiner.
Yeah, Rob. We were talking before, and he's like very expressionless on his face. You know?
That's a way to
He's polite. Todd's being polite.
But I mean, he'll be like, you know, you did a great job. Everything sounded great. But there's like, you know, it's like you almost just want to like, I want him to smile, because I think he's a genuine guy, and everything he said. But it's almost like he's been there and done that, and like nothing's going to impress me. And like, I just, you know, there's something about the guy where I think if you didn't know him, you wouldn't know how to take him. But if you know him, you're probably like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know him, but I don't know him, but I feel like that's probably the kind of guy that he is. Like, this is the kind of guy that you would love. But if you just meet him, he's kind of expressionless on his face, you know? I loved the documentary. I thought the documentary was great.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
But what do you think of him as a drummer, since you're a drummer yourself?
Dude, he's awesome. I mean, the guy is so solid. And I said to him, like, how do you play in those boots? You know, because he plays in those boots. And I said, how do you play in those boots? But I mean, the guy is just, you know, he hasn't missed, you know, no pun intended, he hasn't missed a beat. You know, the dude is just like solid, and he's you know, it's awesome. I mean, to see him still playing and doing it. These are guys that they have a passion for the music, and it's never gonna end. You know, I remember when I was growing up, you know, my mom, she's always said, when are you gonna cut your hair? When are you gonna cut your hair? You know, and people think things are a phase. I mean, you guys are living proof of, oh my God, here's these two guys, you know, that are still talking about heavy metal. Like, who cares? You know, I'm sure you have friends that are like, you know, here's these metal guys that are just, they're, you know, reviewing albums, and they're critiquing every little thing. And you know what I mean? But it's in your blood. Like, it's not something you just shut off. It's not something you grow out of, you know? And so, you know,
before we did this show, we actually did it without the cameras. It's just natural. It's just what it is.
But just to get back to your point, Todd, as I was telling Jim at the Anvil concert a couple of days ago, they might have been playing, let's be like 200 people. It was like 20,000. The expression on Rob's and Lip's face is as if they were playing for 200,000 people. I mean, they were so appreciative, and they just love music. That's what they do.
And you know, you touched on this, Todd, and this is to Alan's point. So I was talking to Jeff Waters from Annihilator just last week, and he said bands are so busy today, they never really enjoy themselves anymore. You're thinking about the business side of things. You're thinking about the writing the album. You're thinking about the songs. You're thinking about the merchandise. You're thinking about touring. You think about all aspects of business, but you forget about the one thing why you started it, just to have fun. He goes, you know, sometimes you wonder why can't it be the 80s where you just could go on stage and have fun? And that's to Alan's point of Anvil. These guys get on stage and they have fun, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and when you watch Lips sing, he looks like he was finally allowed to plug the guitar in and do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He always has this smile, and he has this expression, and he's just, you know, like you said, he performs like he has one chance to play in front of the largest audience in the world, and it could be a sound. I mean, it could be just like you said, a couple hundred people, and they give it their all every time. And I I have more respect for that than maybe some bands that are getting paid exponentially more and are on a stage and are, you know, maybe bitching and moaning about certain things. And it's like, you know, man, you know, these you don't even like this anymore, but that's like the only way they can make a living. You can tell when bands are going through the motions, and it's just like, you know, they're tired. It's not cut out for everyone. It's not cut out for everyone. It's hard touring, even though it's a lot of sitting, but you're constant, you know, it wears on you. It's tiring. So for people to
just to add, you were saying about expanding your musical knowledge and that, talking to the tour manager the other night, these guys, Rob's still practicing 4 days out of the week, and he's listening to stuff by Buddy Rich to develop his technique, to continue his technique. I mean, that's the passion of being a true musician, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think I mean, to say that you've mastered an instrument, I mean, on the one hand, I think, yeah, somebody could actually master their instrument. On the other hand, I think, no, I don't think that's even possible because, because let's say you've mastered, you know, the drums in this fashion. Okay, now do it left-handed.
Yeah.
Because that's what Mike Mangini did. You know, I was talking with him. We did some shows in Europe with Dream Theater, and I was like, you know, they knew I was a drummer, and they said, hey, you know, we got a challenge for you. I said, what's that? He said, you got to go up on the drum set and play the beat to Walk This Way. And I was like, from Aerosmith. He's like, yeah. I'm like, so that to do that that to do. He said, yeah, that's all you got to do. I said, okay. So I go up on stage, and I think Devin Townsend at the time was on stage, and the drums were behind, and so I was like, I don't want to play loud, but so they said, go ahead and try it. And so I'm looking at these pedals and cables, and I'm like trying to find the routing of all this stuff. So I go, I'm just going to look at your drums first before I do anything. He said, go ahead. So I look, I'm like, okay, there's the pedals, the hi-hat, the cable goes there, and I'm figuring it out. And I sit down. I'm a drummer at 30 years, okay? And I'm like, I hit the pedal, the left hi-hat pedal, and the right hi-hat opens and closes. And then you have another pedal, and then the left primary kick pedal, right kick, more pedals on there. And I said, okay, the right pedal on my right foot to the right of the right bass drum pedal, when I push that down, the left hi-hat is opening and closing. But that beat has a hi-hat open where it goes bzz, that, do that, bzz. So you got to open and close it. I'm like, okay, how do I do? So I literally felt like I was throwing a ball with my left hand. It was the most awkward, weird feeling. And so I grabbed the drumsticks, and I was like, I don't even know where to start. And so I finally went, I had to use the right foot. I had to stick it like a righty, but I had to use the left kick drum for the beat and the right hi-hat pedal for the hi-hat that's on your left. And so it was super tricky. But Mike Mangini, going back to this whole Rob and guy practicing 4 days a week, you know, you have these people that, you know, you walk by Dream Theater's dressing room, and there's Jordan Rudess, and there's Petrucci, and it's like, wow, like, I mean, I don't know anybody that practices that much, you know, but these people are just, they live that stuff. And, you know, you have such respect for it.
So Todd, here's a question, okay?
Yeah.
It's more of a current metal question.
Sure.
Harry wants to know, what does Todd think of Zakk Wylde performing with Ozzy again? And I just want to tell everybody, we got about 10 minutes left before I have to do household chores.
The grass is calling.
The grass is calling. So what do you think about Zakk rejoining Ozzy again?
Fine
Zakk
with
Wylde.
me. I got no problem with it. I mean, am I supposed to have is that controversial? I don't know.
No, it's not controversial at all. It's like your opinion.
I
Like,
wanted your opinion.
Maybe your favorite era was with Gus, or maybe it was with Zakk. I don't know.
You know, I mean, obviously Gus does a great job with them, but if Zakk were playing with Ozzy again, I mean, I wouldn't have any. I think it would be cool, but I mean, I guess I feel indifferent on it because he's already done that, and then he has Black Label Society, which is awesome, and so, you know, I mean,
personally for myself, I don't know, man. I don't like it. I want Brad Gillis to play with Ozzy. I want Brad Gillis, one more album with Ozzy.
Got to get out of the 80s.
No, I don't know. I always like this Flash playing. I dig the guy. I think he's in the wrong sort of.
So here's my Todd story number 2.
And I told Brad Gillis that, by the way.
You told him, get back with Ozzy. Forget Night Ranger. Night Ranger's going nowhere. Brad, forget Night Ranger.
Brad Willis. That's all. I just think he should have had an album with Ozzy. That's all.
So about a month ago, Tesla. You mentioned Tesla earlier. Tesla opened for Poison and Def Leppard, and we won't talk about that show. Okay. But Tesla was there, and I'm with my girlfriend again. We won tickets. I didn't buy them. We won them, and we're there in the city. And at the end of the show, well, what do you think of Tesla? You know, and I was really excited. I'm a big Tesla fan. And yeah, they were good, but he can't sing like that guy from Queensryche. So they're you know, I mean, again, somebody does nothing about the music, does not know any music, but your performance stuck with her.
No, that's great. I couldn't sing like Jeff, Keith. I mean, the Tesla. We played with them on the Monsters of Rock the last time we played with them, and I swear he sounded so good. He sounded just like, when you hear a voice and you go, you know who that is? Yeah. To me, sometimes that uniqueness and that individuality, having your own identifiable sound in many ways is more of an asset to me than technical proficiency. And so yeah, when if you put a song on that I did, would somebody go, oh, that's Todd La Torre? Like, I don't know that I have, most people don't like the way they sound. They don't like their speaking voice. They don't like their singing voice. But I don't know that I have that kind of a voice where somebody would go, that's who it is. When I hear Tesla, it's like, okay, that's Tesla. He has such a unique, nobody sings like that guy. Nobody sounds like him. But that's a nice compliment if our performance or what I'm doing stuck in somebody.
I wasn't at that show. I didn't go to that show.
Well, Lip said the same thing a couple of nights ago. His voice fits in that category. Not the technically the most proficient singer, but he's got a sound that people, that's Lips.
Right. What about a live album? Are you guys thinking about a live album, a live Queensryche album?
Yeah.
Any news? What's up with that?
I think after this record is recorded, we will put effort into doing a live thing. It's just, honestly, I mean, there's so many great ideas that people talk about, and we hear them, and we have our own ideas. It's like, God, why can't we do this? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? But when you're playing 100 shows a year, it's so hard, literally, because you got to think, if you do a one-off, that's 3 days, because you fly out, you play the show, and you go home. So if you did 50 one-offs in a year, that's 150 days.
What about your wife? I mean, does she miss you? I mean, geez, you're
never home.
It's, I don't know very many women that could be in, do what my wife does, being in a relationship.
They need their husbands. Just
What's that?
Greek women,
Yeah, they don't need us,
No,
but
they do need you. Of course they need you.
But I mean, to deal with somebody that's gone, thankfully she's, I don't say she's fine being alone, but she has so much going on in her life that, my presence isn't her, she can function fine whether I'm, here or gone, but it makes our time better when I'm home because it's quality. But at the same time, it's hard because I don't see my mom as much. I don't see my friends that I grew up with, that I want to spend time with. It's a big sacrifice. People are, I have friends that are like, man, I would kill to be in your shoes. And I get that. On the other hand, when you're gone over half the year and a year goes by like that, and you go, I've been in the band 5 years. When's the last time I had my mom over for dinner? I don't know that I have. And you realize there's always going to be another show. There's always, but that time you can't get back. And so trying to find a balance is probably the hardest thing for all of us, especially for me. to make everything feel right. But yeah, you said, does she miss you? Yes, you know, and you miss those simple things, you know, sleeping in your own bed, doing laundry, you know, because you're on the road and sometimes there's not laundry. But a live album, we will get into something like that. In fact, Eddie and I were just talking about it the other day. We got to do a live record. We've been talking about it. But when you're touring all the time and then you come home, trying to get all those things together, sometimes you really have to make a valiant effort and just say, okay, we have to do this, and not become complacent to, you know, just I'm home and I have other things to do, you know.
I guess for fans, it's always easy to say, put out a live album. When's your new album coming out? It's just so simple. These are simple little requests as fans, but they don't understand, like you mentioned,
it's really
what it takes, what you have to give up to do that, right? You have to give up maybe time with your parents, with your mom or friends or your wife.
I mean, if we had, because it's like a live album of what? Of a classic record, of the new record, of a specific set list. Okay, then we got to do that, and then we will multi-track record a tour's worth of shows and then pull the best parts together. Or are you recording one full night and that's the live record? Like, what does that even mean? Because you know, there's other parts to that. You know, say, are we just going to do, here's a live record from throughout a tour, or here's a live record from one exclusive evening where we did a specific record? Or, you know, I don't know. But I would love to do it.
I personally think it would probably, you know, it'd be a mix. It's your set list as of today. And I think that would be the selling point, to saying, look, hi, I'm Todd. I can do the old and I can do the new. And
I would love to.
Like your card, right?
Yeah. You have any more questions? I know you got to go soon, and I don't want to neglect.
No, we'll
let's just say Sean, you know, he's been writing and just, you know, praising you. And George Ferrutu, je suis légende, but I think he wants to say that you're a legend. Taylord, thank you for your time today. It was great to hear your stories and insight.
On 2 hours sleep.
David, will the new record be a concept album? Suzette, what tune, old, new, would you like to add to the current set list? I mean, there's so many questions.
I would like to add No Sanctuary. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, great song. Bradley says, saw that you added I Don't Believe in Love to the set list last time. Hope to hear it in Troy Saturday, in Detroit, maybe. I'm not sure if
I think we might. Yeah, we just played that last night for the first time in a couple years. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Hey Todd, Rachel C. from Oklahoma here. I'm a lyricist and I wanted to know if you would be open to featuring some of my songs on your future solo album. You know, well, you know, gutsy person there.
No harm in asking.
No harm in asking.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Metal Church Fake Healer was friggin' awesome. Possibly Metal Church Queensryche tour.
We've talked with Metal Church about doing some touring together. And, you know, it goes back to, remember, hey, you just said some people, you know, are playing music because they love it. And then you have the other business aspects that take away from like what you really want to do. Those are situations where it's like, it boils down to numbers. So Metal Church is going to get a certain amount of money. Queensryche, we have to have a certain amount of money to make the tour be possible because of all the expenses. And so you say, okay, can we do a package tour?
Yeah.
Where the promoters will, where these dollars amount makes sense. What are the venue sizes? How much is the capacity? With that capacity, how much can ticket sales be that's not gouging people? So you say, well, we need this much and they need that much. But these are the venues that will be playing. The short answer is we would love to tour with Metal Church, but there are a myriad of variables that would have to be considered for that to work. Same thing with Dream Theater. You know, we would love to tour with Dream Theater again, but it just boils down to business for the promoters and us and everybody else.
All right, here's Fraser. Would you do a duet with Jeff Tate? Okay. I don't know.
So we want to thank you. I know Todd's only got a couple hours sleep.
Hey, you know, if there was something one day and said, hey, you want to sing something together, you know, I got no problem with that. Why not?
For sure. Why not? Let me just see if there's anything else here. Zach, I wanted to know, were you always a fan of Queensryche? Of course. I mean,
yes.
Obvious. What album, Brendan, what album would you consider playing in its entirety live? Favorite album of 2017 so far? So that's a two-part question. What Queensryche album would you play completely live, right? It's an entirety live. And what's your favorite album of 2017 so far?
I mean, I would love to play the entire Warning album live, or Race Order live, you know. And then 2017, I've been listening to the new Gojira, and I don't know if was that a 2017 release, maybe. Yeah,
2016, yeah.
Okay, and then Rival Sons, I've been listening to a lot of them, which I really like a lot. Testament's new album. You know, I mean, I'm not. You guys are probably up on all the new releases. I'm not. I just I haven't had the time to really dig into it. So
many new releases, I can't even keep up myself. Last question. When are you coming to Montreal, Canada? From Mike.
I don't know. I don't know. But you know, Canada's great. I'm trying to think of where we played. Where did you come when we came with the Scorp? Where was that?
That was at the Bell Center.
Oh,
in September.
Yeah.
September 2016,
20,000 seats, 20,000.
Yeah, that was a big show. I got a huge turnout that show.
Yeah, all of those shows with them were great. You know, I remember when we did that, and I was like, okay, we're direct support. We're the only support, so it wasn't like you're playing to a big crowd with a billing of many bands, and you know, it was that arena sound, and it reminded me of like when I was younger, what every concert used to be like. Every concert was in an arena, you know? And so, yeah, that was great.
There's a lot of diehard Queensryche fans there too. A lot, you know, Scorpions have been around forever and are still loving you. There's a lot of women of a certain age there, but yeah, you can see where a lot of the guys like my age and they were diehards, like, this is Queensryche, you know, they're here, they're Queen of the Reich. Wow, did you hear those notes? So there was quite a few of that. I was happy to see.
And as we'll catch up to you live in person. We'll do a live interview with you when you come back to Montreal. Yeah,
man. I mean, yeah, I don't know when we'll get back to Canada, but
whenever it is.
You know,
Yeah. All right, man. It was a pleasure.
Todd, we'll let you get some sleep now.
Yeah, right on.
Everyone for tuning in, and this will be rerun.
Okay.
Later on, catch it again, and that's it, man. Say hi to your wife.
Yeah.
Happy tour in Europe, right? That's going to begin in, I guess, a month or two.
Yeah. So mid-June, we go to Europe for a couple weeks. We've got some nice, big, high-profile festivals there, and then club stuff, and then I think we have July off, so we'll probably be just still writing and gearing up for hopefully starting to record in September. So,
all right. Last thing, what was the Greek word I taught you?
Hi, geez, I don't remember right now.
Then catalaveno.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah, because I said to her, I said, hey, what is that? And then she told me. And then when you spoke Greek, I said, oh, well, he really speaks Greek. So it's her eyes always light up when somebody really knows the language. I don't know it. It's very hard to learn. It's super hard.
All right, man. All right. Best of luck.
Best of luck. Thank you very much, Todd.
You're welcome. All right.
It was a great pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care, guys.